Hello there, welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. You know, July is almost over. We've got one more week of July. Half the year is gone. 2024. We're starting to see the end of the road for this particular year. Time is just flying, and every day you wonder. And they say that every day that passes by leads to new opportunity, and sometimes you wonder whether or not we are progressing, whether or not we are getting anywhere, whether it be personally or in my case sitting down here as a nation. You know, this morning I'm sitting down reading the news and I think 2 days ago I read of the story of the family raising the point that all the evidence necessary for the prosecution in the case of the Kiss baking company, the driver who died unfortunately in an accident in which his truck that he was driving was rammed into by a 29-year-old soldier. They were arguing, you know, what is taking so long? We haven't heard anything from the police. How come no one's been charged? Everything is on video. This soldier did actually present himself to the police, not after speeding off, by the way, you know, but he did present himself to the police. He was never formally charged. He was actually released. Now, listening to the news this morning, I'm learning that he was charged. The DPP has ordered the police to charge the 29-year-old soldier. The thing is, I know that things tend to take time. You have to build a case. But it just goes to show you, even when you have video evidence, might not be enough. I don't know. Also questions the DPP's office and just how strained they are that it's taken so long to charge this 29-year-old soldier for the death of the Kiss Baking Company driver. But following a newspaper report, I mean, just a couple days later, police then charged the individual. Is that coincidental? Is it that the DPP gave instructions a while now and police have been sitting on it? Is it, I don't know, somebody was reminded, oh look, we've got this file here, we forgot about it. It's a good thing we read the news. We got to go arrest and charge this individual. I really don't know, boy, what happens sometimes. You could question it, and it's the way conspiracy theories actually fool from. It's just so many coincidences. Then I'm also reading about the Prime Minister meetings. As head of the National Security Council, they convened a meeting earlier this week, and present at the meeting was the Commissioner of Police, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, the head of the Defence Force, senior officers from the 10 divisions across the TTPS, and even the Acting Commissioner of Prisons, Minister of Everything, Stuart Young, and of course the Minister of National Insecurity, Fitzgerald Hines. He was present at the meeting as well. And, you know, during the talks, the Prime Minister highlighted the need, and I'm quoting from a newspaper report, so let's hope I'm quoting correctly, for a more proactive, intelligence-driven, targeted, and robust approach which is focused on those who are known and suspected to be involved in serious criminality. This, to me, sounds like a statement a politician or a hopeful politician makes on a political platform during a campaign. To me, personally, this sounds as though this is a statement pulled directly from a political party's manifesto, because it just seems so obvious. There is a need for a more proactive, intelligence-driven, targeted, and robust approach. When did we come up with such a brilliant idea? Now, the thing is, I'm not trying to downplay any efforts. By no means am I trying to put a damp on any efforts. But how often do you get these reactions from the TTPS? We are on full alert. I mean, the TTPS held a press conference on Sunday. We are on full alert. We have not lost the fight against the criminals or the criminal gangs. I was like, what's going on? You're out in full force. The TTPS is out in full force. So what was happening previously? It was out in half force before? You know, it was only half the effort being made before? So you get those knee-jerk reactions from the parts of the TTPS when they held the press conference. So it was nothing different. It was just essentially the Commissioner of Police coming to preach to us again. Then you hear this from the Prime Minister, and you think, you know, it's great. The Prime Minister, as head of the National Security Council, is meeting. And this is what we want to see. This is what we need. But the reaction for a more proactive intelligence-driven, yes, that's very true. That's obvious. But at what point did you realize that? At what point did that become necessary? Certainly not after a year of having Fitzgerald Hines in office. You would have think, given the crime situation has been getting progressively worse over the years, that is something you would have realized even when you were sitting in opposition. Also discussed was the deployment of resources in a coordinated and collaborative manner of sustained joint operations, particularly in areas where there is known concentration of criminal activity. Let me ask a question. What happened to that $100 million the Prime Minister spoke about for the Defence Force? What happened to that $100 million the Prime Minister spoke about with conversations with the Prime Minister? If I'm not mistaken, I believe that meeting was in San Juan. It was a cottage meeting, right? And the Prime Minister spoke about $100 million for the Defence Force to deal with crime here in TNT, particularly in hotspot areas. Could be wrong about that last part, but I do recall something to that extent. What happened to that? Where have we gone with that? You know, everybody was clapping, everybody was applauding. Hooray, it sounds like a good idea. Up to now, I don't know what that $100 million would have done. You just said you were giving it to the Defence Force. I don't know how they were going to utilize it. And two, apart from that, I haven't heard anything further. You know, so honestly, you really wonder whether or not the people who are leading this country have the brains and sometimes the gonads to do what is necessary. You really wonder. You know, it's very easy to use some very colorful language sometimes because of the frustration, but you never belittle yourself or get to that point. You have enough stress to deal with, waking up every morning, going to work, paying all your bills and making sure you're able to pay your bills while still putting food on the table. You have enough stress to deal with crime, wondering if it's safe to even venture out at certain times, looking every corner, every speck, every space when you're traveling. That you have enough stress to deal with. Don't, put yourself in that position again. But, TNT, honestly, I give it to y'all, boy. Y'all really, so many sweet aspects, so much opportunity, and in many instances, so much love. We sweet like currants, right? Well, that's a story for another time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pause there for my morning rambles for now, and we're going to get into some regional updates this morning because we haven't shared regional updates with you for a while. We have brought you some international news over the course of the last few weeks, but there is a bit to update you up now, starting with Haiti, of course, because we want to know what's going on in Haiti. In Port-au-Prince, Haiti's capital, crippled by the relentless presence of armed gangs. So we understand that over 80% of the city falls under their control. But this was a report that was put together by France 24, WESN's affiliates France 24. We have this report to show you first, but then there's also an update in respect to the deployment of Kenyan police officers. About 200 officers from Kenya arrived in Haiti for the UN-backed mission. The officers arrived nearly a month after the first contingent landed. The first contingent, of course, of 200 officers. But let's take a look at this report from France 24 first, and then we'll get that report from the Kenyan soldiers arriving in Haiti.
This is one of Haiti's most powerful gang leaders, referring to himself by his alias, caporal Tila Pli. Real name Renel Destina, he's under UN and international sanctions, accused of overseeing kidnapping, armed robbery, rape and hijacking, and he's wanted by the FBI. Carrefour-Feuille, to the southwest of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, is Tila Pli's stronghold.
Les gens de la population pas sortir de la caille, les boumés, ils restent la caille. On prend, l'aime dit, on prend des opportunités de prendre la rue, ils sortent. Ça veut dire que nous-mêmes, les boumés, les comptes de barrages, nous chez la population, nous tout. On prend. Avec le commissariat. On va négocier à faire payer.
Nous quittons Caille parce que nous, pour que les Caille, nous doivent tuer, nous ne pouvons pas vivre. Nous sommes obligés de prendre la rue. Quand nous avons fait un cadeau, on bagage pour nous vivre.
Yo batli, yo fait le grand sang, nous à la fin il mourir. Il tombe mourir tout.
Les bandits savent qu'ils peuvent commettre toutes les exactions qu'ils veulent et qu'ils ne seront jamais jugés, jamais condamnés.
Aujourd'hui, les bandits ont des armes que la police nationale ne détient pas.
Nous ne pouvons pas voyager. Quand nous jeunes sommes ça.
Les bandes armées sont devenus puissants parce qu'ils sont aidés et encouragés par des bras puissants.
For years, Haiti's gangs fought between themselves. But on the 29th of February this year, they came together and brought the state to its knees, forcing Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign. Vivre Ensemble lived together in Creole, the name of the powerful alliance of gangs that now controls more than 80% of the capital. The economy is in ruins. The humanitarian situation is dire.
You know, many conversations that I've had with members of the public, I'm talking about private conversations, and there were a couple interviews as well that I had here on AM Prime. There were a few that have expressed, including, I remember this particularly, Professor Selwyn Cujo, expressed that TNT is heading down the road of Haiti. Now, I tried my very best to be a bit more hopeful and say, no, I don't think that will ever happen. But if you take a look at that report from France 24, there were 3 points that stood out, which already shows that we are heading in that direction. For example, the criminal gangs in front of the police station, you see in the police station with bullet holes. How far away are we from getting to that point? The gang saying they think that they run this country. Gang leaders saying we are the state. That's one. 2, in respect to the weapons, you saw that gentleman stating the gangs are more powerful because they have more powerful weapons than the police in Haiti possess. Isn't that the case down here in TNT as well? When you take a look at all the high-powered rifles and assault rifles that are oftentimes confiscated or found, not too sure where they end up, but you know, confiscated or found. Prime Minister laments the use of assault weapons, but of course our borders open for all, so I don't want to get into that part, but you know, that's happening in Haiti, it's happening here in TNT. And the third point, where the lady said the gangs know that they can commit all sorts of crimes because there is absolutely no fear that they will be prosecuted for such. That's exactly what is happening here in TNT. So when you hear people say we're heading down the road of Haiti, and mind you, as I said, I tried to deny it simply because I'm hopeful. That report alone shows we ain't too far away. We ain't too far away at all, TNT. Gangs used to fight amongst themselves, but in February of this year, they united. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the next update coming from Haiti, we spoke about intervention, international intervention. There is a UN-backed mission currently ongoing with Kenyan police officers. Up to 1,000 are supposed to be deployed to Haiti. 200 landed earlier this year, and of course, 200 have arrived in Haiti on the 17th of July. It was actually, this report came through yesterday, so let's take a look at it from First Post. I wonder if we will ever get to a point where we will need international intervention. I really hope not. Anyway, moving forward with regional updates this morning, going across, this is a report actually that's coming out of St. Lucia. But the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Antoine, he actually sat down with one of the reporters from HTS in St. Lucia to discuss the 2023-2024 annual report, where the bank achieved a historic record profit of $80.2 million. He also took time to make special mention of the bank's commitment to hurricane-battered nations of the Southern Grenadines and the mainland of St. Vincent. He has pledged $1 million grants to Grenada and St. Vincent for hurricane relief. This report from HTS in St. Lucia.
Central Bank ECCB Timothy Antoine sat down to discuss the record profits achieved by the bank, as noted in the annual 2023-2024 report. His demeanor was somber. Foremost on his mind was not the historic $80.2 million in profits earned by the bank, rather the devastation wrought by Hurricane Beryl on Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Really and truly, our thoughts, our prayers, our efforts are really focused on supporting our member countries recently impacted by Hurricane Beryl. And here I speak of Grenada, and in particular the Sicile of Carriacou, and I speak of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in particular Union Island. Also significant impact on the mainland of St. Vincent. So I want to express our sympathy and strong solidarity with St. Vincent and Grenadines and Grenada on account of the death and devastation caused by Hurricane Beryl. Once again, we've been visited with a natural disaster, but we can take assurance in the fact that we are resilient, and with the help of Almighty God, our partners, and our very hard work, we shall rebuild.
Antoine firmly reiterated the ECCB's commitment to supporting the affected islands.
I want to just say to the people of Grenada and the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that the ECCB stands strongly and fully with you, and we in fact will support you as we go through this together. We are recognizing, of course, that there are two typical phases after an event like this. One is the immediate relief, the humanitarian side, and then there's the reconstruction. The ECCB is going to send $1 million, a grant of $1 million each to Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines to support them in this initial phase of relief.
Acknowledging widespread job losses and the costly rebuilding efforts, the ECCB governor urges banks to collaborate with customers to determine the level of support needed and appropriate times to resume obligations.
There are persons who lost their livelihoods. There are farmers, fishers, other households, businesses that have been wiped out or significantly compromised as a result of the passage of beryl. And here, these customers will work with their banks and their banks with them to ascertain whether and to what extent the support that is required and whether and to what extent they will be able to resume their obligations at an appropriate time. So the banks, of course, will work with customers on a case-by-case basis as they know how to do. And again, the key really is just communication and collaboration in this period. We're going to get through this together. We're resilient, we're strong. It hurts, it pains me. I mean, it's a very difficult time, but we have no choice but to get up and rebuild. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I just want to start with that word of comfort and support to the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines and Grenada.
Antoine also discussed how the ECCB will continue to work on behalf of the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union by helping to create the conducive financial environment for the prosperity of the region.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to bring you updates, of course, as relief efforts continue throughout the Caribbean for nations devastated by the impact of Hurricane Beryl. We have a couple more regional updates to share with you coming from Guyana. And we're starting with a development coming out of dialogue that was held on Tuesday, where the United States of America engaged local authorities in strategic dialogue meant to advance bilateral ties. Guyanese officials also engaged U.S. counterparts virtually, where the U.S. has not only backed Guyana's development efforts, but also their territorial integrity. This report from Guyana
is working to ensure an equitable and thoughtful path towards inclusive and sustainable development and safeguarding Guyana's sovereign wealth through Guyana's natural resource funds. The United States stands ready to support you in that effort. In addition to the economic challenges in way ahead, we also recognize that Guyana faces external challenges. I do want to reiterate once again, and this comes directly from President Biden himself, that the United States fully supports Guyana's territorial integrity. As you know, our longstanding policy is that the current border between Guyana and Venezuela should be respected until the parties reach a new agreement or the International Court of Justice issues a final decision. We remain fully committed to that policy. The United States is well positioned to support Guyana as you continue to expand your civilian defense institutions, whether through providing training in our international military education and training programs, or by assisting your modernization efforts. The United States can help Guyana improve your existing defense capabilities.
That was Dan Erickson, the Special Assistant to United States President Joseph Biden and Senior Director of Western Hemisphere Affairs. He was part of a U.S. delegation engaging Guyanese authorities on Wednesday in what has been called a strategic dialogue between both sides. There are many areas of mutual interest beyond those mentioned by Erickson. For Guyana, the U.S. is a valued partner that it wants to cooperate with more.
President Ali has expressed eagerness for this dialogue, which he envisions would outline strategic issues, policies, and opportunities for collaboration between the governments of the United States and Guyana, also including the private sectors of our countries. Our discussion today would therefore be guided by His Excellency's wish to further deepen our strategic partnership, which must be fit to purpose and futuristic in nature. The United States has long been a valued ally of Guyana. Our shared commitment to democracy, security, and sustainable development forms the foundation of our strong bilateral relations. The consistent support of the United States government for Guyana's sovereignty and territorial integrity is testament to the strong ties we have harnessed over the years. Moreover, we collaborate closely on the maintenance of international peace and security within the United Nations Security Council.
Already, the U.S. is one of Guyana's main trading partners, and the two sides have enjoyed good diplomatic relations for decades. Over the past several years, there has been an increasing U.S. interest in Guyana. Reporting for the newsroom, Vishani Ragabir.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more update from Ghana. The Family Violence Bill was recently tabled in the National Assembly and replaces the 1996 Domestic Violence Act. It has the aim of preventing and reducing incidences of family violence in Ghana. Interestingly, the bill also seeks to provide protection for couples in same-sex relationships and expand the definitions of abuse and family members. According to the Attorney General, Anil Nandlal, this update to the law is long overdue. This report from Ghana.
And throughout this legislation, women were treated differently from men and men treated differently from women. And throughout the Act, we have now changed that wherever we found this inequality of gender, and we have now changed the language to ensure that there is gender equality and equal treatment to both the husband and the wife. So that's another important aspect of these amendments. And we have a ruling from our Chief Justice, the Honorable Roxanne George, which was handed down a few months ago, which I agree with. There is a provision, one of the unequal provision in our current law is the right of a wife to seek and obtain maintenance from a husband, but no right conferred upon that husband to be able to seek maintenance and upkeep from the wife.
Interesting views expressed there by the Attorney General of Ghana, Mr. Nandlal there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on AM Prime. We've had enough regional updates here for now. Thanks for bearing with us on that. But we have some conversations to get into. So we'll be right back after these messages.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Coming soon to WESN.
Pastor Jay, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
Respond
wanna
to me.
respond
Respond to me
you?
how you would respond to me.
I would. The first question I'll ask is why.
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services, yeah.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren. Coming soon to WESN.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this morning as we continue the conversations. In about 3 weeks, to be exact, Saturday the 10th of August 2024, the Trinidad and Tobago Cancer Society has presented their second annual Global Relay for Life charity event. It is being held at Skinner Park in San Fernando, and this year it takes place in the form of a cricket fet match. We all love cricket. It's cricket season throughout the entire year. So the Cancer Society has definitely really presented us with a grand opportunity, not only to present itself as a charity event, but also some fun, a lot of fun indeed. So I'm joined this morning by the director of the Cancer Society, Dr. Asante LeBlanc, and she joins us virtually. Good morning, Dr. LeBlanc, and welcome back to AM Prime.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much for joining us. This is the second annual Global Relay for Life charity event. But can you please tell us a bit more about the Global Relay for Life charity itself?
Yeah, sure. During COVID, I would say that was in about 2021, the Trinidad and Tobago Cancer Society was approached by the American Cancer Society to collaborate on the Global Relay for Life. So Global Relay for Life is a global event where there are now 34 countries worldwide that are members of this community. And what we do is we have events all year in the hopes of fundraising, but most importantly, to support and empower the communities, to show that there's hope, to help to support all those who are walking the journey of cancer, those who survived, and also to remember those that we have lost. So this is an event of hope. Global Relay for Life is to continuously educate and empower and help to really show that there is hope and that a diagnosis of cancer is not the end of the world. But we also want to educate about what we can do as a society to prevent and, dare I say, reduce the incidence of cancer until we find cures for each cancer.
How does collaboration with other cancer societies lead to support for those who may be suffering with cancer, or to families with loved ones that they've lost to cancer? How does that collaboration actually lead to support?
So the collaboration leads to support because through our fundraising efforts, we then, as the Trinidad and Tobago Cancer Society, we're able to do much more work in underserved communities in terms of screening and education. It allows us to be empowered to be better advocates, to strengthen our advocacy regionally and internationally to the powers that be so that we have severe and effective policy change. It helps us to do different things at different levels. The most important thing for those who are diagnosed with cancer is to allow for support, showing that there is hope, but also showing the communities that exist, because every single cancer patient has a different need. And so it allows for more awareness, dare I say, of what is available in each country and regionally and internationally.
In respect to the support for the Cancer Society, though, I mean, it's offering support to others, but does the Cancer Society get the support that it needs to continue supporting others?
Yeah, well, you know, the Cancer Society is 54 years old, the Trinidad and Tobago Cancer Society, and it is your national voice against cancer. We are your national voice against cancer, and we do acknowledge that we have a subvention from the government through the Ministry of Health. However, as most will know, we do have to do a lot of fundraising apart from that in order to do what we do and to accomplish our mission and vision on a daily basis. We are not going to give up, and therefore I say that we look at the challenge and we work feverishly every day to overcome any obstacles. We do events such as this. We have our other events later on in the year. We welcome people, persons in the community to donate if they want to. You can go on our website. There's donations. We accept donations happily, but we will not give up. So it's about us. We're, as an NGO, we have to fundraise because this is our part. We're doing our part to assist and really to be that advocate that is needed where Trinidad and Tobago is concerned when it comes to cancer.
Now, a part of this event, there are actually two parts to this event on Saturday, August 10th, and it starts with the Relay for Life charity FET match. And I'm looking at the poster and you have me wondering, locals versus legends. Tell us a bit more about that event.
So this is an amazing, I'm actually quite excited. It's going to be T10 matches. So we're going to have two T10 matches. The first T10 match is national clubs. We have two teams from different national clubs. So we got players from national clubs and they form two teams. We have the local heroes and the national warriors. Those are the two local teams. And they're going to have that T10 match. And from there, the winner will then play the all-star team, which is what we call the legends. And the all-star team is captained by Anissa Mohammed. And it's a mix. Oh, by the way, all these matches are mixed, so it's men and women. And so it's an amazing all-star team with our national cricketers. We're talking Anissa Mohammed, and we have Kajon Otley. We have so many other names. I mean, I'm now learning them, to be honest, because I must admit my ignorance when it comes to certain names. After Clive Lloyd, and that shows my age, and then Karen Pollard and Bravo. But after that, I kind of got lost. But you know, they're really quite amazing when you meet them. So we're gonna have the winner of that local game against the all-star team. And so that's another T10. So it's two T10 matches. And so it's going to be amazing because, well, T10, you can imagine, is very short and exhilarating. And then just to see the activity and now the men and women together fighting each other, I find that's just amazing.
I mean, it's incredible, the fact that you've got mixed teams for this two T10 matches. But on a side note, Dr. LeBlanc, I mean, you sure you know who you're going to refer to as the local versus the legend?
Yes, I know who I am, because I know the legends, I know the all-stars, I've met most of them. I just have to remember their names. But you know, the reason that's important to have mixed teams, other than showing that there's equal opportunity and women and men play this game for us as cricket, it's also important to understand that cancer does not decide or segregate or discriminate with sex, age, socioeconomic status, and that's what's important. And I think that is what comes out of this when we're batting against cancer. Man, woman, doesn't matter. We're batting against cancer. We're coming together and we're showing that we can do it no matter what.
Now, why a T10 cricket match though? I mean, why a cricket FET match on a whole?
Well, with Global Relay for Life, right, there's a certain format. So we have a walk at the beginning with our Global Hero for Hope, which in this case, this year is Darius Emrith, who's a colorectal cancer survivor. And then we have the format of you choose an activity or a variety of activities, and then you have a luminaria ceremony at the end. Now, you can choose what is culturally significant and appropriate to you in your region and your country. And that is what is important. So when we sat down, like last year, we did hikes and we did walks and it was really fun. But then this year we sat down and said, what will spark an interest and what is common for us and what can we enjoy watching, participating in, and still, raise funds and do it for a good cause. And cricket came to mind. Of course, we just had World Cup cricket. We have CPL coming up. So I know a little bit about it. And it's amazing when you speak to the cricketers, both the locals and the legends, and you understand how strong your cricketing community is in Trinidad and Tobago.
Cricket really brings people together. It really, it's amazing. I mean, sports on a whole, but down here in TNT in particular, cricket really unites us all. The second part of this event takes place later following the cricket vet match, and it's the Luminaria ceremony. Exactly what can we expect from that?
So the Luminaria ceremony is one of remembrance. So there, it has a specific format as well. And the Luminaria ceremony is where we give you a bag with a light in it. You can write on the bag to your loved ones in memory of who you've lost or who is fighting cancer. And we have a certain format, certain things are said in terms of remembering who we're giving hope to, who we're remembering, who we are thankful for in our lives, our caregivers, everybody. And then we do a silent walk, and then we lay our luminarias down in a pattern or in a circle, and we just have a minute of silence. And that is us, dare I say, remembering deeply and getting that spiritual connection to our loved ones, both alive and dead, and just being grounded in the universe and coming together, all spirits in one, and remembering that this battle is for all of us. It's not just for one person. It's an amazing ceremony. So the FET match itself is $100 for a ticket. If you're doing the FET match and the Luminaria, it's $150. And if you're just doing the Luminaria, it's $100. And so, we have options. But, I implore all of Trinidad to come out. It's in South, it's in Skinner Park. We've gone down South. Come and enjoy and remember and support and look at what we can do and know where you can fit in, be a volunteer, whatever it is, and know that you're appreciated in whatever your role is in a journey for cancer.
In respect to the Luminaria session, though, it says that the bags that will be used will actually be decorated with names and even messages to the people that they are dedicated to. The Cancer Society is doing that on site.
Yes, so you get your bag and you write on it. So last year, for example, if you were present, you write on it. So for example, I would write like last year, I wrote to my grandmother who I lost and very dear to me, to my great aunt as well who I lost. So you create that message because it's you giving that message to the universe. It's you showing, and it's amazing. And you don't have to take home your own bag. That's the beauty about it. You can take home someone else's bag, and that's the interchanging, the empowering, the connection of the community. And that's what's very important as well.
What about people volunteering? You said that you can come out and be a volunteer. How does that work? What do people have to do? They just have to come and say, well, I want to be a volunteer on the day itself?
No, so we have volunteers ready for the event. But when I say volunteerism, so this is another aspect to Global Relay for Life and what the Cancer Society does, is that we encourage volunteerism. So this is where we welcome, even on the day, if persons are saying, I wanted to volunteer all the time with the Cancer Society, but how can I do it? This is your chance to come, reach out to us. We will contact you. And there's so many ways that one can volunteer. It could be education. It can, there are different things. It could be marketing. It could be going out with us in our campaigns. It could be going into the communities with us. There's so many aspects of volunteerism, and, it's important. So reach out to us. You have 280-4536 is our number. 3353 is another number, or projects@cancer.tt. And just let us know, and we will reach out to you and let you know how you can, let you know what the options are for volunteerism. And it's very, very, dare I say, it's moving when you find a purpose in life to be a volunteer for something as good as this and as big as this.
Indeed. You also mentioned, you already mentioned the cost of registration for the Luminaria ceremony, which is $100. But if you are, taking part in the FET match, as well as the ceremony, it's $150. Tickets for the FET match itself is $100 for adults, $60 for kids. Do they have to get those tickets on the day itself, or could they pre-purchase those tickets?
You pre-purchase the ticket, so you call the numbers 280-3353 or 280-4536 or email us at projects@cancer.tt. Right now, they will let you know where to pick up the tickets. We may have another ticket outlet soon, and then, just come on down. Once you can pre-purchase your tickets, and then we will let you know close to the date if we're sold out. I mean, it'd be great if I could say we're sold out before the date, but I understand the culture that we live in. So just implore you, get your tickets, sign up, don't wait too late. It's going to be an amazing day. It's going to be an amazing event, night, evening, see the true warriors who are our survivors. We have an amazing survivor group that will be there as well. See what survivorship is about, feel the hope, feel the joy, feel the strength, and help us fight and effect proper policy to prevent this disease from getting worse.
I must say, I laughed a bit when you said that. You understand the culture that we live in. So, very, very true. Finally, Dr. LeBlanc, corporate sponsors, those who are showing their part in really assisting to ensure that this event happens.
Yeah, so you can join on as a corporate sponsor, and you can get group tickets. I'm looking at my phone because there's an offer where if you buy 20 tickets, you get 10 free items, so that's like merch, and 50 tickets, you get 25 free items. This for companies, you can bring your teams out, show your employees you care, come together, enjoy a very amazing event where we're empowering you while we're educating and while we're raising funds and really fighting against this disease together. It's so important, and we've had many corporate sponsors join us. Our flagship sponsor is Republic Bank, and we've had other corporate sponsors coming on, and we welcome more sponsors. Come on, see how you can get involved. Make it happen. Let's really come together and make it happen. The Cancer Society does screening, we do education, we offer palliative care through our Vitas House Hospice. We are your voice and advocate, and we can't do this without the community, and we will not stop. So we welcome all sponsors.
Indeed. Well, just to share with you the information once more, ladies and gentlemen, it is taking place on Saturday, August 10th at Skinner Park in San Fernando. The luminary session, which takes place later in the evening, costs $100. You will be given your bag, of which you can decorate. Volunteers will be on hand to assist you in decorating it, of which there will then be a silent walk and then the lighting, of course, of those bags. There is the cricket fetch match, the local versus legends. There are two T10s that are taking place, and that is exciting in itself. And those tickets cost $100 for adults or $60 for kids. If you're participating in both the fetch match and the luminaria ceremony later on, it's $150. So you call to register or to reserve your ticket. The numbers to call are 280-3353 or 280-4536. That's 280-3353 or 280-4536. You can email the Cancer Society at projects@cancer.tt. That's projects@cancer.tt. Whether it be to do your part as a corporate sponsor, if you just want to give a donation towards the event, the Relay for Life charity, or if you'd like to volunteer, you can reach out to them. Dr. LeBlanc, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning, and thank you to all those who are making this event possible on Saturday, August 10th, and all the volunteers involved. And I certainly look forward to that Locals for Legends match and the luminary ceremony taking place afterwards. Thank you very much, Dr. LeBlanc.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your continued support to the Cancer Society, and have an amazing day.
Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. All the very best to you. Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. We will return, and the conversations will continue. We'll be right back.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website, www.fanzonett.com, for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website, fanzonett.com, to make your purchase today.
This is Face of Sports WESN Content Capital.
How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful. The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of this game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
This is 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
Because vision doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
Coming soon to WESN.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond
wanna
to me.
respond
Respond to
to
me
you?
how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services, yeah.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren, coming soon to WESN.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for being with us this morning as we continue the conversations. Opposition Member of Parliament for Shogunas West, Dinesh Rambali, has made a call for the government as well as the opposition to unite in the fight against crime. He says it should be fairly simple to embark on a crime-fighting agenda where we can have scholars, we can have experts, we can have those in civil society, business society, government, opposition leaders all coming together to actually meet and have discussions about the crisis that TNT is currently facing. However, easier said than done sometimes, and let's get a bit more into that conversation. I'm joined this morning by the Member of Parliament, Mr. Rambali. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Keaton. Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers and listeners. I want to, of course, thank everyone for this opportunity to be able to be on the program and to thank all those who are logged on and listening to us.
Indeed, sir. Well, thank you for being with us this morning. Well, your call for some sort of unity between the opposition as well as the government to address the crisis that TNT is currently facing. And it doesn't just include members of both sides, but also members within society, whether it be business leaders or experts, those who can actually help the situation. However, how does this call differ from previous calls to have talks between the opposition and the government? The situation has gotten worse, of course, but how is it different now compared to what we've experienced previously in crime-fighting talks between the government and the opposition?
Keaton, you have, of course, started off by hitting the nail directly on the head. This is a call that has been made by persons before, different, persons, whether they are of, prominent within their own profession, whether they're criminologists, whether, former parliamentarians, whosoever they may be. And we have also heard these calls being made by members of the public at large. What is different is that in 2022, I would have spent a lot of time myself engaging in press conferences, in interviews just like this one, even with your station and possibly you yourself interviewing me. And I know that in 2022, our cause for concern was that we were headed for the highest number of murders in our history in Trinidad and Tobago. In 2022, I know that the criminologists and the UE lecturers or professors, they were pointing out certain warning signs. Business chambers were on board, business associations, Chamber of Commerce, they were on board. And what took place was that despite all of our warnings and our utterances on the issue and this predominant issue of crime in our daily lives, what happened was that we beat the target that we would have ideally wanted, meaning that we wanted to lessen it, crime less than 400 and down. But instead, we broke the history records by recording the highest number of murders. It was 600 plus. And what that then led to was that the Prime Minister indicated towards the latter part of 2022 that we would have discussions. I don't want to go back into the fact that there was call to prayer and whatever else. Prayer is always good, and we are beyond that conversation now. We have to keep up with our prayer and our appeal to divinity. In 2023, the Prime Minister indicated that there would be talks. Those talks, for different reasons, I cast no blame on either side. Or in other words, I don't cast blame more on one side over the other. I am saying that those talks did not take place. But what struck me is that sitting in what we, we say that it is the highest court of the land, sitting in the parliament just mere couple weeks ago, I would have seen where on a particular piece of legislation, which the government is saying that they required for fighting crime, namely bail amendment legislation, something that the opposition has fought for a significant period of time, fought against on various grounds. we would have seen in the parliament that when the bill was brought to the parliament, that the leader of the opposition indicated that there was a pledge of support very early in the debate from the leader of the opposition herself that, look, we will be supporting this piece of legislation, and of course express certain reservations about other things. But the point is that on something that we were not able to agree on before, that was a signal to me, which is a significant signal to the population. What immediately followed thereafter, the leader of the opposition's contribution, was the Prime Minister saying, but this piece of legislation, bill amendment legislation, was part of a series of pieces of legislation and other issues which he had hoped to discuss as part of crime discussions with the leader of the opposition. And therefore, what it meant is that, listen, based on what you all are saying, had we had these talks in the earlier part of 2023, we are 1 year ahead now in 2024. Where would we be today if we started to agree on certain things? We started to take on board suggestions from the general public, and we were now embodying in a meaningful manner a united show of force against the criminal elements. Where would we be today, Keaton? And that is my concern. What is different in this call is that we have seen significant shifts, I am saying, on the part of both the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. And if that translates to those who fall under the both sides and both leaders, that we are also beginning to appreciate that this is the beginning of something that if we really marshal our forces properly, we can put aside our differences on the issue of crime, that is, and we can unite for common good. Of course, the common good being that we are addressing the root causes of crime. We are creating a safer Trinidad and Tobago for all, regardless of your political affiliation. And this is where I felt that I needed to make this call to urge all leaders, all of my colleagues, listen, including myself, I have to step up and fulfill my duty to my constituency and to the nation. And the time for the action that is required of us is now. When are we going to put this off? Until that, when these, God forbid that these brutal murder figures change from triple digits to 4 digits, that it is now, instead of being in the hundreds, the numbers and the statistics are going to be recorded in the thousands. Is that what we are waiting for? So I say, without, in another program earlier this morning, I said it and I will repeat it here, Keaton, at the outset. There's no disrespect that I mean towards any of my colleagues, towards any political leader at this point in time. What I am saying is very critical, and it is a constructive criticism. I am saying to all politicians, all, that we need to stop trying to keep our jobs and we need to start doing it. We need to start doing our work. This is the kind of leadership that we need, and this is the kind of work that we as parliamentarians, myself being an elected one, this is what we should engage in the interest of the public.
It's a very powerful statement in respect to actually stop trying to fight to keep our jobs and actually start doing it. And to add to that quotation on your part, you've said that petty politics and empty rhetoric fill the airwaves while innocent lives are taken as politicians bicker and point fingers. There is no reason why a crime-fighting agenda can be embarked upon so that it can inform the next parliamentary session. You think it's the next parliamentary session, September to December 2024. It gives the government and the opposition 1 month. But there often seems to be a rhetoric, a strong sense of criticism, not often constructive on the part of the opposition, and a sense of hesitancy even from the Prime Minister for these meetings. Why do you suppose that exists, especially noting that we are in this crisis? You're speaking out now, but why does this level of hesitancy still exist?
Well, Keaton, I think it exists because, as I said, we need to stop trying to keep our jobs. Some people, I don't individualize it, but I am assuming, I am assuming that the hesitance arises because there exists this notion, and it is a real notion, that, look, if it is we deal with such a significant issue, controversial at times, but significant nonetheless, of crime, that it will start making the government look good. And therefore, that will not bode well for an opposition who is seeking to get into office. And likewise, if an opposition looks as though they have the answers and they have the ideas and they have the wherewithal to implement, then the population is going to be pivoted on political will. And if the population believes that the political will, and I am of the view that we have the political will on my side, but if the population believes that, look, and the discussion pivots on who has political will, you could very well see that the government is well on their way out and an opposition is on the way into governance. And therefore, that creates a hesitance. Look, we need to be careful how we trifle with these things. But I am saying that this issue of crime is not an issue which we can afford to trifle with anymore. This is not one where we can seek to protect ourselves politically. This is not one that we can attempt to steal political matches over the other. We can't do it. I mean, if it is clear that crime is not going to be solved by simply treating with law enforcement simplicity. It is not. So whether a government goes, this present government goes into opposition in the next elections and the opposition goes into government, this issue of crime is going to continue to be there. And it may become so overwhelming that the levels of crime will be at a point of no return. In fact, I have seen some of the prominent criminologists, and I would want to say that with their expertise, they have been commenting on crime, that they themselves have been pointing to, we are fast approaching a point of no return. And before we get to that point, we should really try to deal with this issue. So whether you have political eggs in the basket, and you're wondering how many that you will allow to hatch and otherwise, how you treat with it, I am saying that you don't want to get to a point of no return, because if you do go into government as an opposition, you will face some serious problems, and that could very much hinder your governance. And this present government needs to really get off its, rear end and start acting. I have made my position clear, Keaton, that when I make the call for us to unite and to come together, it is not a shallow call that cannot operate. We have seen it happen in other countries on serious issues, particularly crime. And I am saying that even if we have these talks, I am not for any moment suggesting that the Prime Minister and his Minister of National Security and the cabinet as a whole, that they are in any way absolved from their responsibility. I am not suggesting that at all. In fact, the reason why we are where we are today in this very bad state, it is because of the incompetence and the apathy of this present government, the Dr. Keith Rowley-led government. But I could go on saying that from now till doomsday come. What will happen? Nothing will happen. But if we are prepared to say, listen, we will work together to start curbing the criminality, then it is the beginning of something that will benefit the society. And that is what the people expect of us who occupy positions to, somehow lend our hand to the governance structures. And I think that at the end of the day, Keaton, I mean, it cannot be so far-fetched, because if we as leaders continue to tell our constituents and we continue to tell members of the citizenry that we should be our brother's keeper, that cannot mean that it is limited to people on the ground. That extends to us. To have credibility in saying that statement, we must be our brother's keeper at some level where we are able to get together and initiate discussions. And when I said that we can inform the next parliamentary session, it can't be so far-fetched that just 2 weeks ago that we saw that there was, I don't want to use the word unity, but that there was support in that we were able to pass the polygraph bill, all right? What is, the shortened name is called the polygraph bill. And then the other one was the bail amendment bill. And we did that, and we went out of the parliament. We concluded the parliamentary session that we can't have talks at some appropriate time, but we must have it soon nonetheless, that we can inform the next parliamentary session because we know we will basically go off into budget.
Mr. Ramali,
But-
can I just interject? You know, something is still on my mind, something that you mentioned previously, and that is even if the opposition comes into power, this situation will still exist. Are you making a suggestion that there is no government or, by extension, political institution that can actually resolve the crime crisis that TNT is facing, inclusive of the opposition?
No, not at all. What I'm suggesting is that if it is against the backdrop of your question, why is there possibly a hesitance or continuing hesitance to work together? I am saying that in the politics that should not be, because if it is, we allow this to continue because we feel that, you know, we can score political points, even if for persons who on the opposition side may think that we should not give up this tool, this political tool or political issue. Then what happens? Crime could go to a particular point. It could deteriorate to such a state that even if you win the elections, you may have crossed the point of no return. That is the point I'm making. It's not that no government is able to deal with it. It is a matter of that who is in government must have political will to deal with it. This government is clearly not showing that it has political will. It must be that the government must have competence. This present government is not showing that it has the competence. It must be that the government of the day must display and genuinely, you know, exhibit some apathy, compassion. This government is really displaying apathy. And that is where I'm saying that, listen, we have to see, meaning us as politicians as a whole, the government must understand that it has limitations. They have not been able to wrestle this thing since assuming office in 2015. We are in 2024. We are headed well for the culmination of a pure decade. But you have not been able to deal with crime. And I'm saying to the opposition, we have some very good ideas, and we think that we have the political will and we can get it done.
So let
but
me
you can't win office to implement that political will. Let's try and do this for the nation.
Fair enough. Okay, you said the opposition has some good ideas. Now, you've also said that it's the incompetent government that has really led to this situation. You said, however, we cannot necessarily continue with that rhetoric. If the government is incompetent, you're making an argument for the opposition and experts to be a part of any conversation. But the good ideas on the part of the opposition, I'd like to hear more from that. The majority of what has really flooded the airwaves is that of stand your ground laws. You remember the famous comment about load up the Matic, and also about FULs, the widespread distribution of FULs and legal firearms. That seems to be the two most prominent solutions on the part of the opposition United National Congress. Is there some level of incompetence on the part, perhaps, of the UNC in dealing with this situation? If not, explain to me, please, the ideas, some of the good ideas that the opposition themselves have discussed.
Right. So I think that in fairness to the leader of the opposition, whilst I personally may have disagreed with some of the articulation, I don't want to veer off into that. What I would give credit for was that there was clearly a thrust or a drive on the part of the leader of the opposition and the opposition as a whole to speak about a revisiting of the self-defense laws. And I have agreed with that in the past, and I continue to agree with that. Because that is where you must see a transference of the fear from the law-abiding citizens onto the criminals. Right now, the criminals are just running rampant. We have seen, and this is a call that has been made on the part of the opposition, and again, I must be fair to the leader of the opposition, when she indicated that there must be a more systematic and increased access to law-abiding citizens to have guns to be able to protect themselves. What you have is a prime minister who is cherry-picking the issues surrounding gun violence, and he is somehow more interested, or I should say he's more frightened over law-abiding citizens having guns in their possession over that and above of the criminals who already have high-powered rifles. I mean, that just does not make any sense to me whatsoever. So what you do have is a government who is cherry-picking a narrative that, look, there's too many guns on the outside. That is true. The porous borders which you have cultivated, right, and you are responsible for the past decade or so, that has now led to a tremendous amount of high-powered ammunition coming into the country, and that is being used to commit the crimes. Not the fact that you have law-abiding citizens and their guns being used to commit crimes. Far from. So the government is not being very clear and convenient at it. They're not being very clear with the population. So the opposition was right, and the opposition leader was right when she made those statements that, look, she has a drive and she wants a particular thrust being placed on law-abiding citizens having access to guns, as well as the fact that you will then also have a revisiting of the laws, whether it is to increase penalties in certain areas, because it is known that there are certain crimes which criminals, even though if they are convicted, and the conviction rate is so low, but let's leave that alone for now. But even if they are convicted, you know, the punishment does not really meet the intent of deterrence for others who may wish to commit such a crime. And so all of these things have to be revisited. So we have not seen that on the part of the government. Remember, at the end of the day, Keaton, the government is the one, and in this case, the Dr. Rowley-led government, they are the ones who have the access to, they are occupying ministries, they have the access to the technocrats, they are the ones who have the responsibility of collating all of the data. And you need data-driven initiatives to be able to combat crime. It can't work any other way. And we are not seeing them coming with data-driven ideas, let alone initiatives, let alone clearly articulated policies to fight crime. What we do have from them, and one of the media houses, the Express newspaper, in fact, all of the newspapers have had very strong editorials, opinion columns, which have been really speaking adversely against the government and its handling. But today itself, I have here with me, because I saw this particular headline in the Daily Express, nauseating crime narrative. And what they basically spoke to is that what we have heard from the Prime Minister and the National Security Council as a whole, since this last weekend's spike in the murders, really would be cut and paste narratives which we have heard at different points in time over the years.
Mr. Rambali, I'm going to interject you again. I agree with you with the cut and paste narrative. I mean, I expressed that myself earlier this morning. You know, I agree with you on that. But again, getting back to my question, you spoke about data-driven policy. What are some of the proposals, apart from the ones I mentioned, the two that I mentioned earlier, on the opposition that they've discussed in respect to, you know, dealing with the crime situation, trying to resolve the crisis? What are some of the policy measures or suggestions on the part of the opposition?
Right. So, Keaton, we have had where the leader of the opposition has also spoken to the fact that you need to have what was previously the Ministry of Justice versus the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. You need to have certain divisions within these ministries streamlined, because they need to be more competent, they need to be more proactive in what their tasks are. Right now, what you have is you have a muddling of these duties that, you know, officials are expected to perform. So that was that may sound as though we are just going to probably rent a building and we're going to put up a new signboard, but that is not what it is. You have to have these different departments within different ministries that can now specialize their expertise in dealing with crime. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a lack of power and power-driven officials who can really tackle certain tasks to be able to cripple the crime rate. I have suggested, and I want to say that this is not anything that, you know, I am divulging policy. I have suggested, by way of the release that you referenced from earlier this week, where I'm making the call, that it is not difficult to establish a think tank. We have seen it done in different countries, where you ask professionals. You have criminologists, you have other persons who comment, and they have done research papers on crime, that they can come up with suggested, not what they say will go, but suggested short-term fixes. So you have short-term avenues which you can embark upon to combat crime, and therefore you try to stem this outpouring of criminal activity. But simultaneously, you can also allow people in the communities to proceed with some of their own ideas that they have come up with. And an example that I gave earlier in another interview is something that I continue to be very much peeved over. That you would have had certain communities come together, they would have constructed guard booths and put in infrastructure to be able to run it, in a manner that would not inconvenience anyone, not pose any security threat in the event that people have an emergency in the night and they can't come out of a common compound. And so why would you see the need when you have these guard booths established? In the case of activist Inchan Ishmael, he was very much vocal about it. Why did you see the need to break it down? Because why? Because somebody from the community who has a very big mouth and a loud voice, that they came up with the idea first. Why don't you open up what I call the non-traditional avenues, the non-traditional legislative avenues? You see, Keaton, you ask what is it that the opposition has in mind. The opposition has always been proposing that we allow the people to become more involved in contributing towards solutions, because they know exactly what may be required for their particular community. And that it is supposed to be the role of police town hall meetings, that is where they exchange that information. But guess what? Because of the lack of trust in the police service, it is not occurring in the manner it should be taking place. So all that I am saying is hinged on people doing their jobs, especially the police. And one obvious necessity, if we have to take this discussion even further, what would we want to suggest? And I'm not in a position to speak on behalf of the opposition. I'm speaking as an elected member of parliament. We must ask the rank and file police on the ground what they need to stop crime. We must poll that pool of police officers and go around the upper ranks of the police service, because that seems to be an apparent bottleneck right now. That is another issue that we should look at. So you're looking at members of the community, but we're looking at the lower ranks of the police who will tell us what are the problems they have been. And I want to tell you something else, where this is where I know that I can speak safely on behalf of the entire opposition. There is a problem. That problem seems to be that the rut in some of these ministries or services, the rut runs too deep. There are police, customs, and other officials who are complicit in corrupt activities, and there seems to be no way to fix it. And this is where I am saying, therefore, we need long-term solutions, which would require a multi-pronged approach simultaneously with the medium and short-term initiatives arrived at by the politicians meeting and agreed upon by the politicians, so that we can see exactly what we're going to roll out to immediately stem the criminality and the bloodshed that we are seeing on a daily basis, the home invasions. We are going to talk about medium term. For me, I think medium term really would be particularly focused on the criminal justice system, because we need to spend some time there, and that could be rolled out in a manner that we can see that it starts to flow even more efficiently. And long term is where I see that you will be talking about initiatives which will be more social programs, the education in the schools, the, nipping the criminality that is already on the rise in schools right now. So the violence in the schools, we need to deal with those things. You want to have a singing competition because you want to have people sing and incentivize members of the population how to treat with criminals and to lead a life which is away from criminality. I have no difficulty with that in principle. I know that in other countries we have seen where music has led to the formation of a resistance and has really incentivized people and inspired them to do things for the betterment of their country. It can work, but it must be part and parcel of
in conjunction with other measures as well.
Policy. Sorry.
Yeah. Mr. Ambali, we are out of time, but I do want to thank you for making the time to join us on the program this morning to discuss your thoughts and opinions. And I welcome you back to the program in the not too distant future to continue this conversation in the hope that the calls for some level of unity between opposition and government brings about some sort of solutions to the crisis that we are facing. But thank you very much, sir, for your time, and all the very best to you. There is a lot more, that we could speak about, but I think we're going to have to end it there for now.
Thank you, Keaton, for your time, and your viewers and listeners. My pleasure.
Indeed, sir. All the very best. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Mr. Ambali for joining us on the program this morning, a call for unity. And by the way, it's a call that has not only been made here in TNT, there are other CARICOM leaders within their own countries are facing a crime. They're using the same. Cormier Motley actually made similar, expressed similar remarks, sentiments as she addressed the nation of Barbados earlier this week with their crime situation that they're facing as well. So we are going to continue to hear calls for unity. I think at times we may not get that in Parliament, but you can unite. Your communities can unite, villages can unite to deal with the situation and bring about solutions. Unfortunately, the example that Mr. Rambali used in respect to a bamboo settlement where guard booths were erected and then of course bulldozed, that is of course a major concern, that if you do implement such solutions, what are the repercussions from those in authority for such. But community policing is very crucial. A relationship between the community and the police station is essential at this point. And even Crime Stoppers have made arguments that we can come to communities to establish community watch groups. We can help you and share advice. There are some options available, but security is becoming so expensive now. Security is a bill that you have to take off, a very expensive bill that households and by extension communities have to take off. So much so now that people have become so creative with burglar proofing. You become so creative with burglar proofing because it's become essential part of your house. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much to my guests for joining me this morning. Thank you very much to my dream team of Mile Wood for his hard work, and the other fella that sits there. I forget his name now. Anyway, I'm Keaton Shaw, and that's it. We'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.